If you want to learn how to become really good at 3D modeling, you have to master blockouts. Blockouts are the very basic and fundamental stage of any modeling, but they're essential because without good blockouts, you cannot create good models, and doesn't matter how good your details are, they will never improve your bad blockout. So in this video, we're gonna take a very basic shape, which is a cube, and I'm gonna show you how to use just cube to create awesome models. Let's go. Let's get started then. We're gonna start with a cube. Like I said, we're gonna be using only cubes. So Shift A at a cube, SZ, and then SX to scale it just a little bit. And we're gonna apply scale because at the moment scale isn't uniform. If you go to End menu and item, you see the scale isn't uniform. So any bevels you're gonna add on top of this, they're gonna look wonky. So Control A, apply scale to fix the scale. Now, for this tutorial, I'm going to be using hard ops and box cutter and machine tools, but we're going to be using basic tools. You can see all the operations here. You have screencast keys, so you can easily follow. But if you don't have these items, you can just model without them. The whole idea here is to create a balanced blockout using cubes. But if you're interested in actually following a full curriculum, a full-fledged course, we have a fantastic course called Hard Surface Accelerator. Thousands of students, hundreds upon hundreds of testimonials. You can go ahead and check on our website. And this course is going to give you fantastic foundations for hard surface, but also for Blender in general. You know, the UI, the tools, the workflow, rendering, everything is covered. So go ahead and grab it. And if you click on the link in the video description, you're going to get 40% off. So go to blenderbros.com and check it out. So going back to our model here, let's actually start slicing it and extracting some interesting shapes. What we could do technically is we could shift D this cube and move it forward somewhere here and scale it just a little bit, and then scale it on Z-axis and bring it down a bit here, and then shift DZ and move it in here, and this one scale it on Z. Move it a little bit higher, go to face mode and bring this face up to create this kind of a shape. This could be even a little bit higher than this, something like that. Cool, even maybe higher. So you see, now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build some kind of secondary shapes into this cube, into this basic form of a terminal to determine where and how these two protruding parts going to be designed. I want them to be offset to the top to leave a bit more room for the base. I think it's going to look interesting. Okay, now this one could be a little bit shorter. I think this will do. So more or less the distance here and here is going to be even, but this one's going to be larger. Okay, so now we need to apply scale on both of these just in case, and then let's keep building. So here we can grab this face and Q and shift curve extract, which was gonna be ripping the face off and simply creating a solid out of this. SX to scale it on these and SY to scale it on this angle. And then we're going to grab these edges and GY and move them in here to create something like this. Let's just move this in and maybe create something like this here. Then what we can do is actually apply this. So operation smart apply to apply solidification. Go to edge mode, Control R, Control B to split that like this. And we're going to grab that and extrude it here. And maybe, bevel this here like that. Okay, but before we do that, we need to apply scale again. So apply scale and bevel this, or even chamfer this. Maybe chamfering is good. So you see, now we're using only cubes, so we're starting to get somewhere slowly. Now another thing we could do is add another interesting shape here. So we could split this here into two parts. Press E, RMB, Alt S to scale it in and create this kind of like a cut. Also, let's enable cavity. So Alt V cavity. Or you can go here and enable it in here. Default settings are fine. It will help us to read the edges a little bit better so you can understand the design language a bit better. This one could be a little bit lower to give a bit more space here for this. We can also start adding some bevels. So, let's select all these elements and go to bevel with hard ops. This will allow you to add bevel of the same size to all the models, and then We're gonna add weighted normals, so operations, and let's go to sharpen and alt click to add weighted normals to all the models. Now we have even bevels everywhere. Let's select these two shapes and let's go to edit mode, and let's alt control click here and shift alt control here and control B to create a bevel here like this. I think this is gonna be interesting, and one of these elements could be actually protruding further, so a little bit here, and maybe we could just run a chamfer here, so control B and run a chamfer on this one. How this will look? Maybe not, maybe we're gonna run a chamfer or bevel here. So let's select this edge here with control and then shift here and control click here to select these two edges and run a bevel here. And this is going to be more interesting. We can mirror this to the other side, alt X, mirror with hard ups, we're good to go. And to echo this bevel here, we could actually run a bevel here on these two and maybe even on these two, okay? Did we apply scale here? I think we did. This one could be cornered, or you could also run a bevel here as well if you wanted to, but honestly, I think maybe corner edge here is fine. Cool, so this will do, and we're starting to get somewhere. Now, here in the bottom, what we could do is we could Alt W to enter box cutter and create a shape here like this. Maybe we could offset this, so we could go in, press J for Union Boolean, press E, and then drop it down and press space, and you're gonna have this kind of a shape here. So you see now we're starting to offset stuff, and want to make it more interesting, right? And what we could do, we could click on this shape and have a scroll, click, and then we're gonna go to edit mode, and we're going to select these two edges on the cutter and maybe bevel them like this to create this shape. I think it's going to be more interesting. So now here in the bottom, what we could do, we could bevel this. So alt click here and bevel this. And we could run a cut here like that. Press B and X to create this kind of a cut here, right? And if you're going to apply, now you gotta be careful because in Blender 4.2, there's a bug that when you smart apply this, it may actually end up applying bevels, but in this case it didn't, which is good. So let's grab this shape to simply create a separation of this shape, right? So let's go to local view and let's just alt click this. Let me just first select the edges and clear sharp so we can see what we're doing, and select this entire edge here with control. If you don't have Mesh Machine, you're gonna have to do it manually. Then Control B and create a chamfer here to simply separate this, you see, from the entire shape. And then here on the front, we could have some monitors, so we could just, grab a cut here like this, and then B for bevel, press maybe T for solidification in space. So we got this. We could move this a little bit outside, so let me multiply this and GX and move it out. This could be some kind of a monitor in here, and then back here we could also slice with some sort of a panel that could be going from the top to maybe somewhere from here to the bottom, like a Nexus panel, press B and then X and space, and you got this kind of separation here, right? So you got these panels here separated, and when you're gonna be texturing that, you will see this gap here separating this massive shape. What we could do is we could run a loop here in the bottom, so Control R, then select this entire loop, then Q and Alt click on the macro to expand it outwards to create this kind of like a lip on the bottom, which I think is gonna look cool. Now here in the bottom, to conclude this somewhat, what we could do is create just extruded, press J and maybe SY to scale this like this, and press shift click to live this boolean so we can modify it, create something like this, maybe even some chamfers here like that. And we could move this here, and then we could array this, let's say 3 times on x-axis, and or even we could run it across the entire shape like this, right? Or even better, let's narrow down this array to 3, and then we could actually leave 3 of them here. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So there you go, and this will do here. In this shape we could have 2 small notches like that. Press T for solidification, then V X to mirror the cutter, and we're gonna offset it maybe like this, right, to make this more interesting. And obviously we want solidification, so ever scroll and click, and then Q and solidify it. So you can solidify the cutter here inside. Hold Shift 2, and boom, you got these 2 notches, sort of defining the shape a little bit better. This one could be slightly more beveled, so it's gonna be a larger separation here. This one too, maybe a slightly larger bevel to emphasize this cut here. And there you go, and the same here. This one could have a 1 handle, maybe somewhere here, something like this, maybe a wedge cut, or something like that, to indicate that there is a handle here. This one's a little bit too large. Maybe it's overdone. Maybe we could do something like this. Okay, how this will look. Maybe that's gonna be better. Or we could create some kind of like a handle here, literally. So grab you could grab a cube, another cube, and bring it in here. We could scale this on y-axis, scale this on this axis. We could grab these 2 and bevel them, and obviously we need to apply scale. So grab these 2, apply scale, and create this bevel here. And then let's just scale it a little bit more and bring it somewhere here and somewhere down here. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab this edge and curve extract, which is gonna create a pipe. So you can delete that, and we can just move this in here like that, and obviously shade it smooth. It's a bit too long, but it doesn't matter, and you can just align it here however you want to create this kind of a handle. Maybe it's a little bit too large, maybe we can make it smaller, because you always need to think about proportions in terms of the this terminal. So there's going to be a human here, cannot be too large, right? Now let's grab this one and Control plus, select everything, and press P and selection. So it's gonna be its own selection. Let's just scale this a little bit, so the gap's gonna be a little bit larger, okay? And then we can apply some, some chamfer here, whatnot. And I think that will do. This one could have some cuts here as well. Maybe 3 cuts like this, going deeper, creating this sort of illusion of a vent of some such on the left hand side. Well, there you go, and this would be a very basic shape. This could be actually slightly lower, to be honest, maybe somewhere like this. Maybe it's gonna be better. I don't know. Let me see. I think this is fine. We could grab another cube here, hold Shift to create a perfect square, go down, press B for bevel, and bevel it quite deeply, and then GY, move it in here, and then J, and then E, and run it up like this to create this kind of like a connection going to the ceiling. And obviously here on the bottom we could have some flooring, so another cube, scale it down and move it somewhere here, maybe make it larger, kind of like a large tiles, a sci-fi floor here, and this would stand on it, right? And obviously bevel it right? And then we could array this, so could even make them narrower and create some sort of array here to indicate sort of like a swipe for environment, and apply weighted normals, and we get to go. This array could be a little bit narrower, right, like that, and you're good to go. And then you could even create some barriers or whatever, but that's how you can very easily design something using just cubes. And obviously you can start building on top of it by adding some decals, textures and whatnot. We could just texture this using our add-on Materialworks. But that course I mentioned in the beginning, the accelerator, we actually show you how to use BSDF mods to texture your model and make it look awesome. So you can use basic Blender mods to texture as well. So like I said, go ahead to blenderbros.com and snatch the course. It's fantastic. But here I'm going to be using Materialworks add-on because the textures are just superb. So here we can just grab some metal, or maybe actually plastic. Actually metal is fine. Maybe something darker, something like coated titanium. And we could have the same one in here. So shift click here, and we could just simply copy that. And the front could be a little bit brighter, so maybe this kind of a steel, and this one could be actually the same color. This one could be, this is going to be a monitor, so maybe coated titanium again. And the monitor face should be, made of something else. So insert it in here, and maybe insert it in, then Q and Shift Curve Extract. And this one could be plastic mud screen. Now the top could be also this metal, so we could just borrow this mud. Copy that, and this handle could be either this or something different, like maybe graphite steel or whatever. Okay, so there you go. This could also actually be graphite steel. Let's see how this is gonna look. Let's copy that. Maybe it's gonna be a bit better. And the floor, we can use whatever. Let's say the floor texture. Let's just change the scale here to fit, and there you go. And the HDRI could, we could change this to something that's gonna show the form a little bit better, something like this. And there you go, you got a very simple design. And obviously, because our add-on Materialworks now works with decals, you could very easily start it in decals. Like for example, we could add a decal here. So let's Shift S and move a cursor to the face, and we're gonna add one of our, let's say the keyboard or whatever here, and we're going to rotate it, adjust it, scale it, and we could just drop it in here. So someone's gonna be operating this, they're gonna have a keyboard here, and project it, and here could have something else, I don't know, some kind of event, whatever, something like this, for example, right? Just offset it nicely and project it. And like I said, these decals work with our mods, and so do trim sheets. So if you're gonna, for example, add a trim sheet here, so here we could just slice this with a box cutter, and like this, press K for knife and slash it. We could grab this entire loop here and add a trim sheet. So press W to exit box cutter, press D to access a decal machine, and I don't know, add something like this with Alt. You can add some shapes here to make this a bit more interesting, whatever you want, something. How would I go for something simple here? So maybe something from this. Let me see, something like that, whatever. And then you can keep stacking stuff here, you could add some events on this side, or maybe even a logo, some kind of a number of this machine here on the top, and right, and just design the whole thing very quickly by adding decals as details here. So on the bottom we could add some vent like this, for example, or something round like a socket, right, or some kind of you know, different panel. Let's see, maybe something like this, right? And you know, just put it somewhere here in the bottom to add some sort of a socket. Then we here, for instance, may add some kind of lighting, some kind of like, you know, indicators that the machine is working. Let me just find something simple here, you know, something like this or whatever. Tiny, you know, tiny button here, or even somewhere here in the middle. And then simply duplicate it and repeat it with Shift R. We could apply them both, all of them, so project, and then we could turn one of them off. So D, so select this one and go to mods and unlink them, and then D, adjust E, and you can turn it off. So you know, it's not really symmetrical. It's, you know, you break the symmetry here too in the bottom, because you can see if this beautiful negative space, we could add something on the bottom as well. Maybe some kind of a warning sticker, whatever, you know, somewhere here, and, you know, and project it, and boom. And there is your terminal complete, right? And this is how you can just use basic shapes, just cube, and design something really cool. You just have to train your brain how to understand basic shapes and how to use basic shapes and primitives in order to create kind of like an outline of your design. And then you start breaking this outline, breaking the design with smaller details, cuts, and so on and so forth. So when you design something, never start going too deep with details too early, because you will end up with a disaster. You need to first, you know, take time for the blockout. Usually when I design something, blockout takes me the largest amount of time, okay? Because I want to make sure that the model I'm going to be building on top of the blockout is going to be well balanced and well designed, because like I told you in the beginning, if you're going to add details on something that isn't really looking good and isn't balanced, it doesn't make any sense, no matter how good your detail is going to be, it's just going to look like crap. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Like I said in the beginning, if you're interested in a full course that will teach you everything you need to know, all the basics about hard surface modeling and beyond, then go ahead to our website blenderbros.com and grab the accelerator course. You can get it at 40% off. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.